Welcome back to my channel, Madden Backlog Series. Today's video is about Madden's Deep Dive trailer. Before we get too deep into this, please click the like icon, click the subscribe and notification icon so you will be informed when a new video has been posted. Before I roll the tape and show you what I saw, let's first correct this. This is not a deep dive by any sense of the word. The last true deep dive EA did with this game or series was back during the forum days, when they added the variety of read option and jet plays and alerts and all of that to their game. I remember because the developers were demonstrating on the site, actually demonstrating each feature on that site. I can't remember the name of the site, and if I remember correctly, they also took questions, something you will never get them to do now. It is simply advertisement that comes out annually to sucker gamers into believing there has been an improvement. Then they get hype content creators, some with EA access from what I understand, to hype it up with verbal dialogue and proving nothing, because all they're doing is pretty much just repeating the same thing that they're claiming. That never gets fulfilled. Everything they state about Madden 23 now is this, and I quote, "While Madden 23 improvements didn't quite live up to what they claimed, it was still an improvement. We can't deny that," unquote. They did the same thing with Madden 22, Madden 21, Madden 20. See, there's a pattern that they've left behind that I picked up on. But the truth of the matter is, yes, we can deny that, because every year it's proven. After about week 2, things begin to kind of go downhill. The thing is, they won't say that because they will lose access to EA. Understand the game being played on you gamers. Now let's roll with the hype trailer.
The goal for gameplay in Madden NFL 24 is to provide players with more control and realism through improvements to the Field Sense gameplay system, a completely redesigned character skeleton that we're calling Sapien, and enhancements to key areas of foundational football.
More control for the game and realism through Field Sense. Did I not tell you last year that Field Sense was not what they were making it out to be? I guarantee you they have not fixed it. And as a matter of fact, I will start working on my 5-minute check video to launch a week before the release of Madden 24. The Sapien is not going to change what needs to be changed, this 3D models skeleton system. It will be eye candy for some, just as it is advertised in this advertisement screenshot. Foundational football is fine. I'm all for that. The problem is Madden doesn't have foundational football in its game, and every year they do nothing to fix it. This will be no different this year. Back to the trailer.
As part of Madden 24's Field Sense improvements, Hit Everything 2.0 introduces
Hit Everything. Tackling, control, and variety. New wrap tackle? So does this mean it never was in the game, or it was and this is improved? We're talking about a new pass catch tackler. This was the first one that caught my eye.
New contested catch tackle types to
Why? Watch the wide receiver physics as he comes across the screen to his right. Watch him suddenly stop and the tackle animation kicks in before he's even hit.
new contested catch tackle types to provide more control and variety on defense. In Madden 23, the mid-air tackling system changed the way players defended the passing game, but those were limited to tackling receivers who were leaping for the ball. In Madden 24, that system expands to all contested catches, so you can now make plays on curls, slants, and crossers much more effectively, and you can hit receivers coming across the middle. All of these improvements increase your control and ability to defend the passing game. New wrap tackle types like scoop tackles, low wrap tackles, mismatch tackles pay off the size, momentum, and matchup of every tackle.
Madden 23 didn't change anything. The only thing it changed is a different way to exploit the game. I know offline the console could get itself out of a bind when behind with completed contested passes that would normally be dropped. And I guarantee you scripting was involved and it will remain in the game. The pass defense animations I'm seeing on crossers don't make sense. A little bump is not going to create a drop, and if it does, the gaming community will not like it. They're doing this as a patch because they can't represent coverage on those plays realistically. So now you're running across the middle on a drag route and you catch the ball and somebody just kind of hits you, tap you in the back. I don't mean like a hit stick hit, as you can see through the animation that they showed. It's just a two-hand shove. All of a sudden, you're going to drop the ball. I don't think the community is going to be happy with that at all. Low wrap tackle also was again an instant stop with virtually no forward momentum for the runner. As soon as that wrap started high and then gradually drifted down the body, that runner with that momentum stopped. And that's been an old problem with Madden. For some reason, when somebody comes to tackle the runners, they automatically stop at that point. There's no forward motion with regard to that. Now they say more control, and yet they have Barkley run right to the defensive tackle. And that's just to demonstrate to you that they've got this weight thing. They want you to believe in the whole physics aspect of that play. That's what they're trying to sell you on. You will see later on in the demonstration of AI runners, why didn't Barkley use that AI to get around that defensive tackle? And the answer is to demonstrate that. But it also takes away from what they're going to be trying to sell you later on with regard to AI and pathfinding as a runner. So these are the things you got to catch on to when you watch these demos. You have to ask yourself, well, wait a minute. If he has that AI run ability, how come he didn't have it there? And not only that, there's an aspect about that with regard to blocking. And I'll say that for later. Now, if this isn't so, then this will remind me of the lack of control once the ball is in the running back's hands and not being able to respond to what's coming at him, especially on those fake jet zone runs. You know, it's really hard to cut inside on those runs when you have that end or somebody blasting through the line in an unrealistic manner, because the game won't allow you that control. So let's move on to the video again.
Other side of the ball, improvements to skill-based passing introduces upgrades to make both throwing and catching smoother. Receivers will now maintain their speed and momentum when catching, no matter where you place the pass, giving you more control to get loose and turn upfield. A new jump, dive, and no-look pass animations have been added for quarterbacks who often improvise to manufacture a clear passing lane. Madden 24's new character
Skill-based passing 2.0. Well, 1.0 was a joke. And I have a video that shows that. It's not realistic at all. They need to change that, and I doubt that we will see the changes here, but they claim momentum catching and new throw animations. The one they advertise is the one throw that Mahomes made. The question is, will they make that a high percentage throw even for him? If so, they will again make a one-time play in every game play, which takes away from the moment. Those plays are special because they're rare, not that they do them all the time. Will shorter passes have different and faster throwing animations as opposed to a deep pass for streaks and comebacks and deep outs and deep ends? Because I noticed that a lot of short passes, the quarterbacks are still using this long slingshot type of throwing motion, which is most of them have demonstrated is not accurate. If this was a deep dive, it would have been demonstrated. In stride, deep passes may be a good thing, but Madden is poor with speed ratings and has a tendency to boost speed and jumping of players with a sudden boost because, again, grouped animations move at one speed. I like the idea of receivers not always slowing down, but the passing has to be consistently out front and well timed. If timing is not part of this, then it too will be a complaint early on by the community. On a dime pass is actually not what people think it is. It's not all about the QB. The wide receiver makes the adjustment on the throw, whether it's underthrown or overthrown. The QB has to time it and give it enough air for the receiver to be able to do that. But if we continue to see the DB leaping up like we do not see in the NFL on a regular basis, then it really won't matter. Go look at a game with some big passes and watch the limitations of the defensive backs when beat. In Madden, being beat isn't always being beat as it should be.
Skeleton, Sapien, has been completely rebuilt from the ground up, resulting in more realistic animations that better simulate athletic performance. On the previous skeleton in Madden 23, player limbs and joints weren't always accurately represented. You can see here some of the new ways that Sapien in Madden 24 more accurately reflects the bodies of various NFL players. From players with a unique combination of size and athleticism to those with more athletic builds, Sapien transforms the way players look, move, and perform on the virtual gridiron. With Sapien, animations have higher fidelity and are more fluid, making the player movement more true to life for smoother gameplay in Madden 24. Sapien also unlocks our ability to...
Sapien. I get what they're trying to sell you, but I'm sorry, it will not make that much of a difference with gameplay. It might make for a better presentation 3D model, but not gameplay. The example they give you does nothing for gameplay. It's just eye candy. Let me tell you again, these so-called fluid animations will crumble the more the game gets exposed. Animations are limited. No matter how many you put in there, they are limited. It is okay for some things like crowd, sideline, and many things that doesn't have multiple interactions. But for a game they want to be physics driven, it just is not going to happen consistently once the interaction takes place. You will notice they used a throw behind the wide receiver as a selling point, but does that also point to the same old behind the receiver passes we have always gotten used to? Where you're throwing the ball out in the flat and the running back always spins around to make that catch? Now I know you can do it with leading, but that still is not even consistent. Please tell me they did not use a skeleton to sell you on the referees being back on the field. Are they back as more eye candy, or are they back with true functionality? I think it is eye candy to claim they are listening to the community. I can tell you they don't have any real functionality aside from being on the field. Now, cutscenes we already had, so that's going to be nothing new there.
To respond to community feedback, like adding referees back to the field, and it's optimized for both male and female characters. Enhancements to foundational football in key aspects of gameplay increase the authenticity of every play. First up is blocking. In Madden 23, blockers sometimes miss their marks. In Madden 24, a new blocking system makes open field blocking AI smarter and more decisive, and in turn, makes it easier for ball carriers to react to blocks. We're also expanding field sense animation include the implementation of Frostbite navigation grid capabilities for the first time. The result is a better assessment of the playing field and defensive threats by ball carrier AI, and more appropriate movement through the chaos of a play. As a result of improved traits that intelligently determine how quarterback AI performs, each QB represents a unique defensive challenge in Madden 24. Conservative quarterbacks will check down more often. Ideal decision makers know exactly when to sling in a tight window throw, and aggressive signal callers come with high risk, high reward. Mobile quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson are also able to use ball carrier pathfinding and are more dynamic to play against as a result. In addition, AI quarterbacks can better execute the quick passing game, call hot routes, audible at the line, and are smarter and more challenging to play against overall. New read steps and crossover footwork allow DBs to see the ball and make plays more authentically. And now defenders need to be able to see the ball in order to make a play on it. As a result, slant routes and crossing routes will have a higher chance of breakups or interceptions, and defenders can utilize new animations to make more plays on high balls. Fumble recoveries are more realistic with new animations like crowded pileups and scoop and scores, and onside kicks are more authentic with the addition of new ball physics. With over 70 new offensive formations, new pass and run plays that take into account a team's identity, and over 500 new plays, there's more play calling variety in Madden 24. New team-specific formations take into account real-life personnel alignments that allow for unique matchups, letting you be more creative when play calling. Improvements to Madden 24's post-play engine gives NFL stars more true-to-life reactions after every play. Contextually appropriate reactions with more celebrations and frustrations make your teammates more dynamic and boosts immersion. Madden NFL 24 was designed to provide players with more control, more realism, and more confidence on the field. And we can't wait for you to get your hands on it.
Foundational football. Let's look at blocking. I will know when I see pulls, powers, jet passes, reverses, etc., whether that run blocking has been improved. That's going to tell me, for the most part, all I need to know. Now, I do have a question on this play. Why is the defensive back running into an engaged block? Is this not the same old fake AI? I mean, he's all the way down the field and he's running right to an engaged block in order to find the best path to the running back or receiver. That was something I don't think they really either expected you to notice or they even caught themselves. I don't mind branching, but again, Madden makes a 69 speed defensive tackle run at 80 or 90 speed and have superhuman strength, especially as a star player that can run through an entire offensive line in a blink of an eye to get to a much faster running back. So I don't want to see the same speed boost on offensive line as part of their branching technology. Knocking a defensive line or linebacker is not easy, so Madden needs to show loss in speed and reacceleration, both of which has been missing from this game over the life of this game. I will know early on whether the blocking has become dynamic or still the same pre-assigned mess it has always been. It's never been hidden from me. I've seen it all the time. And you will too. I have some video as well from previous versions that show you just how you can recognize it. I will see if sensible adjustments will counter these toss plays that they're demonstrating. Because if not, that will be the go-to play, I'm sure, for those of you who play head-to-head. Been there and done that. Now, the other part was something about a ball carrier pathfinding. And I mentioned earlier about the play that they wanted to emphasize the physics of tackling. Well, where was this pathfinding on that play? Don't say that he just got the ball and couldn't make that move, because that's not true. I'm also noticing is running is still producing ghosting. The issue will be when you play the console, it will get away with it. The console players, the legs can trip up with one another and nothing will happen. You won't see any stumbles, you won't see any loss of speed, nothing. But the minute your player does it, your player will stumble and fall. That happens in Madden 23 right now. Quarterback AI. My concern is the wording. They like to use AI because it's a buzzword. It's just that word that people want to hear. AI, AI. And I'm sorry, it's a very limited AI, if any at all. But here are some of the things to be concerned about. How they describe certain players, such as how a conservative player will check down. My question is, will they check down when it is time to not be conservative? Like near the end of the game, they need to get the ball down the field. Will they still be doing those little dink and donk plays and they need 2 scores and they really don't have much time on the clock? Then there's the other end of the spectrum, the aggressive QBs, the high risk and high rewards. Does that mean they will be rewarded with completion simply because of that characteristic? Because remember, this is going to be pretty much determined by that player characteristic. So will your defense still matter? Will the pressure in their face still matter? Those are the things you got to look for. The quarterback being able to carry the ball is good, but have they installed anything on the defensive side to counter it? The old spy and contain won't do it. So most of this deep dive has been on the offensive side. You've seen a little bit of defense, but that defense has been mainly about defensive backs and physics and tackles. What about that intelligence with regard to handling a team where the quarterback is just running? Because what you'll get 4 verticals and then they'll take off. And that becomes not only a boring game, but it's one of those games where they're exploiting the weakness of the game that's supposed to be so AI-filled. Defensive back improvements. They say they need to be able to see the ball. Yeah, right. Okay. I'll believe that when I see it. Or what they'll do is you'll have somebody dropping back, and when they see the ball, they'll get that extra boost of speed to burst on a wide receiver who actually should make the catch and be open, but suddenly will either stop short of running his route like they do now with comeback routes. The old comeback routes made so much sense because the guy would come back for the ball and over to the sideline. Now the guy just kind of turns around almost like he's doing an outside curl. Sometimes they do come back, but that inconsistency is a problem. And it's not related to the characteristic of how a receiver runs his route. So that route rating has played no factor because I checked that as well. But I guarantee you a streak will be broken up with the linebacker or defensive back not seeing the ball, just like we see now. You can have a tight end who runs a streak and he gets behind the linebacker and the ball is tossed to him, and all the linebacker does is put his hand up and the ball is automatically swatted down. He's not even looking back at the ball. He just puts his hand up and the ball gets swatted. So I'm pretty sure we're going to still see that. And the other thing is, seeing it isn't all that it takes. Anticipation and being in the right place to defend it matters. I'm tired of seeing those defenders 10 yards away on flats and wheels, and then they burst right to the seam. And the same thing when they're covering in the middle of the flat and the curl. Many times if you throw to that curl route, all of a sudden that guy has this magical boost of speed and he burst over there. Linebackers have that same boost of speed sometimes with regard to routes in the middle of the field. That has to end. The defender is right there on the slant.
Slant routes and crossing routes will have a higher chance of breakups or interceptions, and defenders...
Come on now. That is a pathetic demonstration. That's like a real setup. The defender was already there. That wasn't even a coverage of the slant itself. That was just a play where you run in on a slant and your people are only maybe as deep as 5 yards and they're just standing there and a person still throws the ball. That has nothing to do with better coverage or improvements or improvements with regard to the defensive back. That was a setup play. Again, to fool you in this advertisement, not deep dive. Defenders already have high pass defenses. But the problem is it is unrealistic. And players don't even see the ball when they do it. And I almost guarantee you again that will exist. And will be exposed early on with Madden 24. Onside kicks and fumble recovery. Crowded pile-ups should have been already in the game, and I believe it once was, but they didn't know how to do it. Probably still don't. That will be exposed early. Because before they had like the spinning player at the bottom, and all of a sudden he stands up and the whole crowd of people, he's like standing up as if he's got superhuman strength over 5-10 people over top of him. So I really don't have that much confidence in that until I see it over and over again. Because just seeing one time does not sell for me. EA has to show consistency. And they brought that on themselves. Scoop and scores, it's always been in the game. But it became too easy and immediate without having the ball in the player's line of sight. Just like to talk about the defensive back needs to see the ball. Well, an offensive lineman or defensive tackle, whatever, near the play needs to see the ball. Not everybody notices that the ball is loose and know exactly where it's at. And what makes it even worse is because they use the same animation. Again, we're back to that animation again. You have the same speed. So you get offensive linemen. Again, if you look at Madden 23 and on back, when they pick up the ball, they're moving at a higher speed than their rating. All of that agility and everything else is tossed right out because it's a canned animation. Understand that. When you see those plays being done in their studio, that's the speed that everybody's going to move at. So when you see that scoop and run, unless they actually add variation with a slower person and so forth and so on, you're going to get that same real quick pick up, scoop, and run. It'll be offensive lineman or defensive tackle, defensive end. They're going to be moving faster than what is realistic. And again, we have that now. Now, they talk about playbook variety. And this is a pet peeve for me because I use custom playbooks. I don't use a playbook out of any of the teams. I customize my playbooks all the time because I never cared for the playbooks themselves, and I'm not a person who likes to do a whole lot of exploiting of the bad AI, because that's really what a lot of people are doing. They're going to say, well, yeah, it's part of the game, blah, 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 blah. I get what you're saying, but the point still remains. The game can't handle it. The game can't handle all of those hot routes that people do all the time. That's why you see all of that as part of plays that can beat this and plays that can beat that, because they sit back and they practice and practice and practice how to exploit various defenses, and that's how they come up with it. I'm an audible guy, so all of my plays are audibles. There's nothing of a hot route, with the exception, one exception. If I want my tight end or if I want my running back to block, then I will, I guess you would say, hot route that player to block. But that in no way exploits the defense. With those hot routes, the gamers figure out, oh, the AI can't handle this, and all I have to do is that. That's why you got so many of those videos sitting out there now. Not to say that all of them work, but that's how you get them. But their point is playbook variety. Okay, that's what they said. But there should have been offensive playbook variety, as they stated 70 new offensive formations. They said nothing about defense. Now, granted, you're probably not going to get that many defensive formations. I really don't need any more quote-unquote defensive formations. What I am looking for on the defensive side is more plays that are more unique than your typical play that's just kind of tweaked. Your 3 sky or 3 match. I need more than that. You know, you get some spy plays in there for some things, but I'm not going to speak too much on that because, again, I'm working on something myself. But I don't think they do the defense justice. And if they did the defense justice, you might have a happier community on a defense with regard to zones as well as man-to-man. But for the most part, this is offense. Now, the question is, are they really new or ones taken out and put back in? Because they've removed a lot of wide trips plays, wide trio plays. I noticed that last year because my playbook is pretty consistent throughout the years with regard to how I build it out. But I did notice that there were a lot of those that were missing. So different plays that I would call or try to set up, they weren't available. Now, I did notice that from one of the trailers, they have like a Debo package, which means wide receiver in the backfield. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just going to be interesting to see how gamers are able to exploit that. And I don't mean to exploit it in terms of a chess match. I'm talking about exploiting the weakness of the game that does have a very limited AI, if any at all. I see where they said they have 500 new plays. And that sounds a lot, right? But if you have 70 new formations, then that means you're going to have 70 new formations that require plays. If I heard that count right as 500, and you do the math, that's approximately 7 plays per new formation, because then you have 490 plays. So you have 10 more left over that you can sprinkle however you want. Finally, post-play emotion. This might help with the presentation to a degree, but most players skip by this and it will not address the sidelines, which is still a joke. No presentation upgrades. Did you notice that? So your booth is going to pretty much be the same. I take it the same commentary as before, using the same old tired lines, and not able to keep up with the speed of the game or provide the emotion of game-changing plays. They won't keep up with the switch to no huddle suddenly. There's just so much that they need to do there that they're not doing, and I don't think it really is that difficult to do, but they're just not doing it. And again, as I close this out, this is not a deep dive. This is a pretty high level overview of the game. A deep dive would have been more of a demonstration video or a demonstration live. That's what the community should be demanding, considering this is supposed to be a make or break season. You would think if that was true, I'm still not believing that either, that they would be out here doing live demonstrations of these new improvements to convince the gamers that this is real. This is the real deal. See, this is not fake. This is not sporadic. This is what you're going to see. You'll be able to run this against man-to-man. You'll be able to run this against zone. And you'll see how those things are covered. This is advertisement. I mean, I can't emphasize that any more than that. You will see more hype between now and August. You will see more hype from these hype content creators. You will see more hype maybe with more trailer releases. I'm sure they will have more as time gets closer. We're heading into July. And leading up to that release, the hype will be even more so. But I'm going to emphasize this again before I close this out. You have to ask yourself, why would a company tell you it's going to release something on June 8th? And knowing that it's going to be a staggered release. Then you have to ask yourself, why is this release staggered? What is the point of allowing some gamers from the 8th to the 28th, 20 days of access, while others get staggered in? It really doesn't take much to understand. It's to help those people who are helping EA. You flock to their site, you go and subscribe so that you can get that code. And many times people don't even get the code still, but that subscription, that like, that viewership, that all of that goes into play to help them be able to take an advertisement to make money. You're being used by these people. You might think, oh, well, they still provide information. They're reading pretty much right off of the board, or they're pretty much reading or taking notes that you can take yourself off the trailer. Just like I pretty much did right here. I'm just trying to get this out to gamers so that they stop being used. Seriously. And maybe at some point in time, I will even do a Ghost Recon, because I do play Ghost Recon. I've got issues with that too, but that's another video. So until then, also please make sure you help to get the word out by sharing this video. No monetization is involved here. I'll check back with you later.